Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Human First Podcast, the official podcast of Roadmap Writers. I'm Gabriel Tice.
I'm GT Cruz.
And I'm Nicole Betts.
We're in store for a great episode. We have a supremely cool guest lined up, Tawnya Bhattacharya, with her writing partner, Ali Levanthol. Tawnya is developing a new legal drama at ABC called The Advocate. So Tawnya and Ali were also writers and co-executive producers of Netflix's My Life with the Walter Boys and Peacock's Bel Air, of course, the reboot of The Fresh Prince that I actually have a small connection to. That small connection just being I didn't go to high school with
You went to Bel Air once in your life?
In another lifetime, I went to Bel Air. Yeah, no, I had mutual friends with one of the actors who is playing Carlton in the show, if I'm not mistaken.
Ooh.
In addition to her writing credits, Tawnya is also the founder and the owner of the TV and feature writing school Script Anatomy. So we'll get to chat with her about teaching writers, which is something we do here at Roadmap, and hear about how that's enriched her own experience as a writer. Our guest is about to join, and we're going to have a really fun conversation. But before that, we have to hear a quick word from our sponsor, who is us, Roadmap Writers. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back after these messages. Hi, folks. Welcome to another round of 3 Questions with Roadmap Execs. Today, we're talking to Andrew Kersey of Kersey Management. In TV, his clients have sold pilots to or been staffed on series for ABC, Fox, NBC, Disney, CW, Nickelodeon, and more. His clients' projects have been packaged with names such as Sandra Bullock, The Rock, Chris Pratt, Anna Faris, Ice Cube, Sylvester Stallone, Zach Galifianakis, and Adam Scott. What impresses you most about a screenplay?
I would say voice. Voice is what really jumps out at me when I read scripts. It's sometimes intangible to describe exactly what voice is, but writers who've been working on their craft for some time, they're going to develop style of voice, a way they write dialogue, characters, sort of this cumulative impact of sort of the execution, that comes from within the writer. So for a jaded reader like me, I've been doing this a long time, voice is still what always jumps out at me.
What's reoccurring advice that you give to writers?
Be open when it comes to rewrites. One way I've always approached screenwriting and screenwriting development is viewing a script as a living, breathing organism, and it really is always growing and changing from concept stage to the day it's actually released in a theater or on a platform. And I think that if you view your work as a living, breathing organism, you really have a true respect for it and really sort of take the long view and therefore be open.
What's your favorite thing about working with Roadmap Writers?
How prepared Joey and the team really makes the writers when it comes time to, whether it's pitching or discussing their scripts, whatever program it is. I'm always impressed with how prepared writers are by the time Joey and Roadmap brings the writers and is ready to sort of introduce them to the industry, let's say. So that's something that I've always been impressed with, even from day one. So for someone like me, really appreciate the level of preparation that goes in on behalf of Roadmap for the writers.
So again, a big thank you, Tawnya, for joining us.
Well, thank you guys for having me. You are a fun lot, and I'm excited to be here and chat with you about career and life and all of that. I'm Tawnya Bhattacharya. I'm a co-executive producer and writer who's been on over a dozen shows. Some of my favorites have not made it to air, and I'm currently developing, and I'm sure we'll get into that, and I'm the founder and CEO of TV and feature writing school Script Anatomy.
Yeah, so speaking of what you're developing, around the time that we reached out to you to come on the podcast, Deadline announced a legal drama that you're developing with ABC. Is there anything that you want to get into that with?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm so excited. I mean, I guess it's always helpful for writers who are aspiring and even writers who are like starting out in the business to hear. So I want to start with a down, because it will be inspiring to know that there's always going to be downs to have an up. So my writing partner, because I have a writing partner, Ali Levanthol, we work on everything together. We were counting all the pitches that we had that have not sold, which was like tequila shot worthy. But it was like 8 pitches. And then we sold this one, and the journey of that was basically we got a new agent. I think we didn't have an agent for a while when we were on like season 2 of My Life with the Walter Boys, because our agent had moved from UTA to another management company to become a manager. And so the new agent was somebody that we had met back in the day. I'm going to give you a lot of information in this one answer. We'd met back in the day. And so when I said to our manager, like, do you think we should get an agent? Because the business, as we know, has been a little wonky since the strike and COVID and God knows what else. But he said, yeah, I think that's a good idea now, just the climate we're in. And he said, I can put a list together and we can go meet people. And I said, no, we met with Matt Snow at Paradigm before we chose you. It was between the two of you, and really like him. I think he's amazing. So if he's still interested, would like to go with him. So he called him, and Matt was still interested. I have 2 Matts, Matt and Matt. The 2 Matts are our reps. And Matt Snow read some of the work that he had not read before since the last time that we had met. And one of the things that he read was this script, which was a spec script. So The Advocate was a spec. And then we had a pitch for it as well. And we went out to, I want to say like, it felt like a lot. I feel like it was maybe 13 pods or 11 pods. And a lot of them wanted to jump onto it. We ended up going with the Walk-Up Company, which is Scott Morgan's the executive, but Elizabeth Berger and Isaac Aptaker, they're writers and creators, or actually they are creators too, and they've sold to shows, and one very recently, I believe, to Hulu, but they ran this as us. And so they were just so great and exciting, and they got it. And so then they went to their place that they have an overall deal, which is 20th, and 20th jumped on board and made a deal with us. And then they gave the script to ABC, and a few days later, I think it was before. I'm surprised I don't know the exact number, because the pins and needles of waiting is like brutal. And then they bought it. They bought the script. And we've also have been pitching another show, which is a pitch, not a spec, that we just finished pitching last week. And I kind of alluded to you guys before we started that I have good news, but we sold that script as well, or not script, but pitch as well. And I can't say who to, because one buyer has not responded, but we do have a buyer. So we're really excited to know what we're doing for the next, I don't know, handful of months. Thank you.
That's
Breaking
awesome.
news here.
Yeah, it's
On a
amazing.
roll.
Yeah, on a roll. I mean, yeah.
And is this a new project that you're selling? Is it also in the vein of being a legal drama, or can you?
No, it's actually young adult, which is funny because we've worked on a lot of young adult shows, but Ali and I have never written a young adult show ever. We've never written till now, never even written a young adult pitch. And I was feeling like we were getting sort of stuck and pigeonholed in that. And I think part of that is like, they're 2 girls and they can do like soapy YA. And it's like, yes, we can, but that's not how I started my career. And I have, a lot of people don't like the word genre agnostic, but I think we are to a degree. We're not going to write sci-fi or horror, but we have a wide range of things we like to do. And we want to do those. We all do as creators, right? We want to tell stories, and it's the kind of stories we want to tell, not just one kind. And so my new agent was like, I have a book for you guys. I know you're not really like excited right now to do YA because you're coming off of all these YA shows, but I think you'll like it. Just read it. Let me know what you think. And the sell for me was, so it's a book called The One That Got Away with Murder. And it's written by Trish Lundy, who she's got a second book coming out. I think she's an excellent author. She's a real page turner. And I apologize if you can hear the tree trimming that might be all of a sudden going on outside, but maybe you can't. But anyway, we read the book, and I think it was last December. We read the book and then we met with the author. And I was like, yeah, okay, yeah, I want to do this because it's got some sort of propulsive aspect to it. I have a hard time with some of these teen shows that are just about the soap and the romance and the relationships and the friendships. I'm like, because there's nothing to like keep it propulsive. So this one has a really interesting murder mystery component, an investigative component to it. So that's why we said yes to it. And then Gaumont is our studio, and I can't say enough good things about them. I know you probably hear all kinds of bad things about people in development, and those stories are out there, but I feel very lucky with all the, sorry guys about the barking, about all the great partners that we have right now in our lives. The bark was from Disco, my dog. My husband's going to come procure her so she can no longer make any noises.
I can't hear her either, so.
Yeah,
I
I didn't hear
think-
anything, so you're good.
I
Okay.
think we should have a pet count, because I think
Yeah.
every guest so
Has a
far
pet.
has had a pet that's made their presence known while
Oh,
we're
really?
recording. Yeah, like a
Yeah.
cat strolling by or a dog running up. I mean, Nicole, you have a dog.
I do, and a cat.
And a cat. Oh, nice. Yeah. You didn't hear Disco bark?
No.
Mm-mm.
You didn't?
Mhm.
That's so strange. She's
No.
really right next to me, and she's like, oh. She does have a low gravelly smoker's bark, so that might be.
Must be all the Marlboros that that
Yeah.
Disco's.
I wanted to ask, because I'm very curious about developing a show based on a book. Like, is there only one book so far, like in the series?
Yeah.
And so how do you see developing that? Like, are you going to stretch the book into just like one season, or are you going to try to get multiple seasons out of the one book? Or how do you see that working out?
That is a great question. I think I'm trying to think of where we were going to stop, but I think we were going to do initially in our minds, we were going to do most of season 1 or all of it in the first season. But there's so many twists and turns. What we decided and what we ended up doing is just part of the book. So the book is going to last us for, I think it lasts us for 2 seasons, and then we move forward and move on and all that. And we've made some changes. So I think this is also what you're probably getting at, GT, is that like we've, subtracted some characters. We've made, character, we made changes on like the guilty parties in a really interesting way. Yeah, and that's kind of like, I'm sure we've done some other things, but we've stretched some things out. I think initially, like what I think is funny, like our instinct was like, let's get her out of high school and into college as soon as possible because she's in a college town, and like, let's do more adult, edgier stories. And they were like, no, let's keep her in high school. So, only upon having a season 4 would we be able to get her into college.
Is that an interesting creative challenge for you, having that, not level of censorship per se, but that kind of ceiling as far as the explicit nature of what you can portray on screen, and how to still maintain the suspense or the authenticity and
yeah,
all
I mean,
those
I
things.
think like it's going to be interesting because like when you pitch something, everyone's going to take a little bit of something different from the tone, I feel like. But when you write it, then you're going to see it on the page. And I'm like, I'm going to push the envelope. Ali and I are going to push the envelope because we want it to be sexy, and we want it to be, there is some dark elements to this because there's a serial killer element to this book and this show. And so we're going to want to push that agenda and make it feel as adult as we can. And I think that's just going to be like, well, are we going to get permission to do that from our partners? While also still bringing out the romance of it even more, so, because that audience is really fans of the romance of shows, right? The love aspect. So yeah, I mean, hopefully we'll be able to do everything. I think the thing that makes me pleased is that I love our partners. I've become, like, at one point I said to Ali, oh my God, we're like 36 months pregnant with this story. We've got to deliver a real baby. Like, that's what you feel when you're like trying to sell something and you're waiting. Every time, pitching wise, the journey of pitching for me is like when we start something new to pitch, I'm really excited because I have potential, like something could happen. I believe everything you do is the next thing that something could happen to. And a lot of times nothing happens to it, but you still have to remain hopeful. So I was like, oh, now I'm really into it, and you're developing it, and then you're making a deck, and you're making a leave behind deck, and you're, really getting excited about the story, and you're getting all the first the pod pitch meetings and the studio pitch meetings, and you're like, oh, it's still exciting because like what's going to happen? And then the second they set the buyer meetings, which there were like 4 places that we went to. The second those start happening, a depression sets in because the chances are actually very slim. People are pitching and pitching and pitching all the time. I have pitched numerous times and felt like this is a no-brainer, this is going to sell, and it didn't, right? So the depression sets in and the anxiety sets in and the doubt sets in, and then you try to keep your spirits up. And I have my own little way of doing that, but that doesn't mean I don't dip into misery.
Well, yeah. Well, speaking of, like, so like, remaining hopeful, trying not to let the misery devour you. I know people are probably listening to this right now going, she's so successful. She's selling all this stuff. Blah, blah. Can you take us back to the beginning, starting out, how you met your partner? Like,
Oh, yeah.
how'd that
Well,
all go?
to land on that, Nicole, like there's a lot of, I guess you could say, failure is the very negative way of looking at it, but there is a lot of like no's. There's a lot of rejection on the journey. It gets easier, but it doesn't in moments. But like I think it gets easier in that you're like you let yourself feel it and then you move on. And it's important to have a lot of irons in the fire so that you always have hope. I feel like you always have something that could become something. But I started out, Ali and I met, my writing partner and I met when I was teaching features for another entity in 2005. And she was a writer in the first class I ever taught. And we became friends and we talked about working on something. She was, she brought an apple every day. No, she was a great student. She was talented. That was obvious. She wanted to write something a little darker. I like darker things. Even our medical cases skew dark, and we probably have to, our medical legal cases, because it's a legal show that has a lot to do with the medical law. And everything has a little bit of a darkness to it, which I prefer, but I'm not sure if we're going to be able to, do that with where we're going. But we met, she was in my class for two plus, like 2 years, 22 months. And then we talked about writing something. We were too busy. I introduced her to a producer I was working on features with. They were a team at the time. I said, hey, I just went to her house to like she was doing a reading of one of her features. I think you guys would really like this script. And they did. And they started working with her. And then I moved to India for 2 years. And I was like, that's a whole nother thing. But I came back to, we'd always meet for lunch and hang out and talk and whatever, talk story. And then I went back to LA, had a very long lunch with Ali. And on the way out in the parking lot, she said, oh, have you spoken to Amy? Amy was one of the producers we were working in. That producing team broke up and we both went with Amy, the female. And I said, no. Oh, why? Did she say something? I haven't finished my script. And she said, no, but I was thinking, and I knew what Ali was going to say. I just psychically knew. And I said, yeah, let's do it, before she could say anything else. And she's like, what really? I said, do you want to work on the projects together? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, I think that's a great idea. And so we started working out in features together over, no, not Zoom. This is the older times. It was Skype. And it would be like, I don't know, if it were 10 o'clock at night there, it would be, or here, or in India, it would be 10 in the morning here or something like that. And so we did our first feature together and it went really well. And by then I moved back to the States, not yet LA again. I was on the East Coast for a minute and we were talking and I said, oh, I had done the Fox program. So I had written my first pilot and gotten into the Fox program. And so I came back to the States to do that program in 2009, 10. And, that program's evolved so much, like everything good does, right? And then we were having, I don't know what we were doing. Oh no, we were on the phone and I said, I got to get into another one of these programs. Went back to Connecticut is where I was. And I was like, we got to do another one of these programs. And she's like, I need to apply too. I said, well, I'm going to do a Nurse Jackie. Do you want to do it with me? And she was like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, but like, then we're going to be partners. Like if we get into a program, we're a team. And she's like, yeah, I'm good with that. We're good. And we got into Writers on the Verge. And then that kind of launched everything. I'm a big fan of like applying to these types of things. And we got into that program, got our first agent, got our first manager, got our first job. And then that was kind of the rest is history. And then you have all the bumps and, all the highs and lows and the roller coaster ride all the way through. And it never ends. Like it never ends for no matter what level somebody is. There are the, yeah, the
Yeah.
lows.
No, that's
Walk
cool.
us
Great.
through a lot of those credits after you got into your program, after you really hit the ground running with your writing partner. There are a lot of really popular TV credits there on your resume. So walk us through what that looked like as a burgeoning writer with a writing partner, being in these writing rooms, being an executive producer, all of that.
So our first job we ever got was on Fairly Legal on USA. We came onto a season 2 of the show with everybody was brand new on that, including the showrunner. And it was a really good experience. We didn't realize how good we had it because we had nothing to compare it to, but we had the nicest boss on the planet, and his name's Peter Acco. And then we bounced around agency wise for various reasons, but we left our first agency, which I'll just say was CAA, and went to ICM. And then we got our second job at ICM. And that was like the client list. And, it's still like we were kind of getting these jobs. We're happy to have a job, right? You're happy to just get work. But the whole way through, like, I always knew, like, but I want to do the kinds of things we want to do. And it's frustrating because people then start to judge you for the kinds of shows you're on, and you're like, but I didn't write that show, I didn't create that show, that isn't reflective of what I do. But then they expect that to be your work, and they go, oh, your guys' work is so different from the shows you've been in. I'm like, yeah, because I didn't create those shows, but we got like our first handful of jobs. Our agent, we were kind of getting frustrated by, I'm going to be really honest and candid, I felt sometimes like I didn't know if he wasn't trying hard or if I don't know. I just felt like he wasn't getting us the kind of material we wanted to be on. So we took some time in 2015 to write like 4 new pieces, 2 features and it was 2 features, 1 pilot and 1 short story. I feel like we wrote 2 TV scripts, but I'm not sure now. And we wrote those things and they were all like more reflective of what we wanted to do, because we're like, well, maybe we don't have the kind of thing we want to do, because when you're in a program, they'll often choose what they want you to write. And I think you feel like, oh, I have to do that because they're the bot. It's a bad idea, because you have to know your brand and what you want to write, and what you're writing should be reflective of the kinds of shows you want to be on. And since that wasn't the case for us, we were getting on these shows that reflected the kind of material we had been chosen for us in the program and we wrote. So that's why we just took a minute and like wrote a bunch of new things. And then meanwhile, agent gets me too'd. We have no agent anymore. And then we go out and we meet all these people. And that's when I met the 2 Matts at different respective agencies and 3 other agents. And we went with Matt Moldavsky, who's currently now our manager. And he was very instrumental at UTA in just getting us closer to what we want to do. And at least also, like, often we would have like 2 jobs. We would have like a job on a show and then a mini room at some point, like in 1 year. And he was building up, and he got us on 2 shows that reflected really more what we want to do, that didn't go, unfortunately. But Ginny and Georgia, A Million Little Things, Bel Air, My Life with the Walter Boys were all hit shows for streaming platforms too, which we had not yet worked on any streamers. So that was like a big deal. Like, he opened a lot of doors for us that way. And then the 2 shows that we didn't get to, one was an Apple show that took place in the music industry. It was the rise of like Fania records, Latin music, the rise of salsa music in like 60s Spanish Harlem. And that was a really cool show. And then we wrote, and I can't believe it didn't go. It's such a bummer. It was so good. And then the other show was Twin Territories, which was a Western, and it was very edgy, extremely cinematic. It was one of the best scripts I've read and have gotten to be a part of show-wise. And it got axed in the Amazon calling post strike. So, and it was heartbreaking because it was the one time I was like, we're definitely coming back to this show. It's so good. They have 3 scripts and an outline. It's amazing. We get nothing but like praise and compliments, and then nothing after the start. Oh, you're gonna start after Cross, and then it just didn't happen. And then we got the call that it wasn't coming back on like a Thursday. And it was like, ugh. And then on a Friday, the next day, within less than 24 hours, we got on a Zoom. We were asked to get onto a Zoom, and we heard that Walter Boy season 2 was coming back. So we went on to that for that's the last thing I've been on.
Can I tell you something funny?
Yeah.
Matt Baldowski is my old agent.
No way.
Yeah.
At UTA?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Nicole, don't you have another connection? Or did we mention that?
Oh, yes. My friend Grace was the script coordinator on
Walter Boys.
Yes.
Yeah. Grace is lovely. Yeah.
I have a funny connection.
Yeah.
Matt Baldowski was the assistant to one of the agents that I had. Like
was that at ICM in early days?
That was yes. ICM early days.
He was on somebody's desk initially there, and
he was on my agent's desk.
Yeah.
Well, since everybody's throwing around connections, I already brought this up in the intro, but I knew the actor who plays Carlton in Bel Air back in high school.
He's so good.
Yeah. When I heard that he was, that he got cast in the show and was headed for such success, I was like, that makes sense.
It makes sense. I mean, he was wonderful to write for. Like, that whole cast was extremely, first of all, I don't know, maybe the best looking cast on any show I've ever seen in my life, Bel Air. But he was particularly one of my favorites to write for, and, flaws and personality and drug issues and, jealousy and envy. It was just fun. And he's such a consummate professional and lovely. I mean, I really like him a lot. Loved working with him. Yeah.
I do have a question about Bel Air, since it is a reimagining of Fresh Prince. I can imagine that it's like that there's an intimidation factor with trying to take such a beloved like property and like reimagine it into something that's a bit more gritty. Can you talk about like some of the challenges like maybe the writers' room faced in adapting that material?
I mean, the creator of that show, was it Malcolm Morgan?
Spellman?
No, Malcolm Spellman didn't do it. It was Morgan, and I'm not sorry.
Oh.
I apologize. I'm not remembering his last name. But he wasn't on the season that I was on. He wasn't around then. I'm sure he was busy doing other things. But he had filmed, I don't know if you guys know that story. He had been driving under an underpass, I believe it was, or an overpass, and he was, for whatever reason, it just flashed in his head, like he had an idea of like, what would the Fresh Prince of Bel Air be today? And so he went and shot it. He wrote something and shot it, and it was super edgy and dark and gritty, and he had reimagined all the characters in a very, very smart way. And
it was like a YouTube short. He posted on YouTube, didn't he?
He posted it on YouTube. I think Will.
I do remember seeing that now.
Yeah.
Now that you mention
it. They pulled it because it's Fresh Prince.
Yeah.
But I mean, I wasn't around the first season when they were finding their sea legs with that show, but I think it was always meant to be a reimagining and an updating, and I think they did a great job of that. I think the challenge would be like, if you weren't a major fan of that show who remembered every episode, sometimes we would put Easter eggs in, and I'm gonna admit, I never really watched that show. Like, I didn't really watch The Fresh Prince. So when they initially came to us and said, we have a meeting for you on Fresh Prince, I was like, comedy? We're not comedy. We're like, no, it's going to be a reimagining. It's going to be a drama. Just watch it. I'll think you'll like it. And I did. I watched it, and I thought it was really great. They did an amazing job. And I was also very like, I don't know if I want to do another YA show right now, but I felt like that was more of a family drama too. And then I met TJ and Rashid, who were our showrunners in season 2, and fell in love with them. And I was like, oh no, I really hope we get the job. Sometimes you're kind of like, I don't know. No, I don't think that's the climate. Now the climate is like, what do you got from, I'll take anything. But at that time, we were still on Walter Boy. So we asked out of that to get onto Bel Air. And they said no, but we'll drop them down to second position. And that ended up working out really well for us because then we were able to come back to season two.
Can you explain what that is for people who might not know second position?
Oh, okay. So like, um, I was on a show originally, which was Walter Boys, which means that's in first position. So that means it's the priority, and my contracted work to them is the most important thing, and making those deadlines is the most important thing. Like that's first position. And if I then go sell something, then that's in second position. And if I sell a third thing, that's in third position, kind of a thing. And I think I usually had known that to be more of a development thing, but I think because some streaming platforms take like 2+ years to come back for a second season, they were like, no, it might work out that they'll be able to come back if we put them in second position. So they let us drop down to second position so our first priority could be Bel Air. And if it had happened that we could come back to both of them, then I think there might have been a choice to be made. But it just all worked out, like timing wise, like, and it never does, guys. It never works out timing wise, ever, I feel like. But timing wise, it worked out for us to just jump right back into Walter Boys after the strike. And then I think Bel Air came back at some point later. I don't know. Yeah.
I have a question about your dynamic with your writing partner. Are there things that like, oh, you lack here that she makes up for, or things that she lacks that you make up for, or like, do you prefer it over writing solo?
No, I definitely prefer writing over writing solo. And I definitely like, it's really nice to go through the business with somebody who is as invested as you are at every stage, who feels the pain that you feel, who feels the glory and the, excitement that you feel, that you can talk to, that you can close a door and go like,
Yeah.
like that, like who's a witness to everything that happens, and who also though can sometimes be like, no, and this is her, not me. No, I don't think that it was meant that way, or no, I don't think he's mad about this. I think it's just that la la la. You know what I mean? Somebody who's like more of a voice of reason. I think if things get heated ever in situations that we've been in, which have been few, she shuts down, and then I go into really calm mode and can have a conversation and be very like that. And I think that might surprise people because I'm definitely emotional and very, I have my feelings, but I usually keep those to my writing partner, my husband, and my reps, and then like process all that so that I can come to the table, right? And I don't shut down over conflict, and definitely have dealt with many crazy or damaged or whatever, maybe just majorly stressed people. And so sometimes you have to deal with those things, and it's hard. It's not easy. And I think it's really hard for people that are, especially if they're afraid of confrontation,
I want to expand on something that you alluded to earlier about having a process to get through those hard times that every person in this industry has to persevere to, the road that's paved with no's, and the, just the unforeseen circumstances that can, completely alter or impact our careers in ways that we couldn't anticipate or can't control, like the strikes, or like the Palisades fires. So what is that process, as much as it is a process, or just what are those routines, or maybe those movies and shows that you love that you go to for inspiration? What does going through
what's the self-care
what's the self-care? Yeah.
Oh my God. Well, there's never enough self-care, really. Like no matter how much you do, it's like, I think like tennis is something that I've gone to, but I only do it like once a week. But tennis, walking the dog, definitely enjoying like watching content. Yoga and stretching are all helpful things. I think we forget because we're like in our room and we have to be by ourselves to write a lot. Like Ali and I don't write together in a room. That's not how our process is. But you're by yourself, so it's important to like still have engage with community and do things and travel if you can. But I think for me, what helps me, and I kind of said this before, which is that I have to have a lot of irons in the fire so that I feel like if something dies, then I still have other possibilities. I think when you have like one thing, and a lot of writers do, and they are putting every egg in that one basket, the disappointment is so great because and it's always hard because you've spent months on it. It's like I was saying to Ali, like, even though we read the book in December and I think we started working the pitch out in January or February, then you do all the meetings, then you do the agent notes, and then you go to all the pods, and that's a whole thing. And then you land on your partner and you get your deal. And then you are doing notes with them and developing that. And then you're picking a pitch deck and the images and all that. And it takes so much time. And you're finally at buyers and you're like, okay, now it's like it was December of last year to pitching. What month are we in? October. I think we were pitching maybe end of September and early October. And then you're just like, oh my God, like to carry this project in your heart for so long. Yeah, I wasn't working on it every day because I'm juggling other things, but it's going to be painful. And imagine if you only have the one thing and that doesn't go, like the defeat and picking yourself back up off the ground makes it more difficult. So I think for me, one of the biggest things is I have multiple irons in the fire and I'm always thinking like, what's next? What's next? To the point where, sometimes it's like, because you can only juggle so much at once. We're two people. It's easier for us to juggle more things. But like right now, at the start of this year, we had a pilot we wrote that we're trying to get an actress attached to. We had The Advocate. We had the pitch for the one that got away with murder. And we had a feature that we did a big rewrite on that then the director who we did the rewrite on was like, you know what, this isn't really for me. But I will say he made the script better. He made it a lot better. And now we're having these meetings about that to do something else, but like they have to read that script to be like happy about it. And I think he elevated it massively. So, you see the light at the end of that tunnel. And I think and we had one other pitch that we've done a pitch on that needs some work. So like that's 5 projects that we've been, when you waiting for notes on one thing, you go to the next, you juggle that in whatever way you can. And for me, that's what keeps me sane is having a lot of irons in the fire.
So what you're advocating for is script polyamory. Can't be tied down to just one project.
Gabriel, that's it. Be a cheater. Be unfaithful to your work.
But only consensually.
Yeah, consensually.
How do you balance all of that, especially with running a business? Where do you find that time?
I know. I don't think I would say most people are like, I'm not a typical normal person, which is probably true. But I used to teach too. You remember when I first started Script Anatomy, it was just me. I taught 1 class and then the next year I taught 2. And then the next year, I don't know how many I taught, but I realized I taught 4 and then I had to bring Ali on. And then after that, I brought another person on and we had 11 classes. And at our height, we've had like 120 classes a year. Oh. And about, I want to say 4 or 5 years ago, probably 5 years ago, I had been for many years trying to stop teach because I'm like, I can't teach and develop projects and be on a show and help run the business. There was a time, and this is a long time ago, when I did everything, like all the publicity, all the marketing, everything, getting the teachers on. And then I had one person, and then that has grown. So I have a team, thank God. I mean, just like I know you guys have a whole team there, probably much bigger than we have. And so I have a team who helps me with everything, but at the same time, I have to make final decisions. I have to weigh in on everything. Are there times when I complain about that? A little bit, because it's just like it often comes at a time when I'm like, I've got 45 things to do, rather than like, what about the day I have nothing and everyone's leaving me alone? No notes, no problems. So I have a team, and then I tried not to teach for about 5 years, or a few years before. It took a really long time, and then I have not really taught in the last 5 years. I think I might have taught once at the beginning of COVID. I feel like I did co-teach with Ali, maybe a feature class, but that's one thing I took off of my plate so that I could do that. And then with the juggling of projects, I always know like what in my head is my priority. And then I do quarterly goals. I'm very big on that. I have very like these are my quarterly goals. And this year we're in the last quarter, which I don't know what's going to happen, but every quarter I've gotten everything done except for one thing, which then kind of fell into this last quarter, but I finished a draft of that. But yeah, we juggle. And sometimes because we're a team and because we trust each other and we've worked together so long, and I know you'd kind of asked this, Nicole, like, do you have strengths and weaknesses? It definitely is more on the personality side, probably. I feel like people will expect something from me and something different from her, but we can both do everything. I think there's more, like I'm more comfortable with action. I probably write a little more humor, but she's written some of the funniest lines, or I write a little more dark and edgy, but she has a scene that I'll never forget early on in a spec script that we wrote. It was a Mad Men, sample or whatever that like, I was like, ooh, Ali, what? Oh my God, that was like dark and edgy and sexy. What? Okay. Like, I feel like the reason why our partnership works is because we both have a tremendous amount of respect for each other and believe that the other one is more talented than the other one. We always think that. I always read her stuff and go like, oh, she's so good. I couldn't do that. And she says the same thing. And I think that our skills and our sensibilities match so much that nobody can tell who did what, even though I skew into the Sopranos, Breaking Bad, The Wire territory, and she skews into the, Grey's Anatomy and Parenthood and whatever. But like we both like 6 Feet Under, and we both like Mad Men, and I've watched Grey's, and I think Grey's is great, but like I'd probably rather watch something a little bit with more, teeth and crime. I don't know, more dead bodies. So yeah, it's a good match that way. And hopefully I know I came back to another question, so hopefully I answered the one you initially asked.
I would like to ask, because we brought up the script anatomy, so I would like to hear what perspective teaching screenwriting has given you over the years, perspective on the craft or perspective on the industry, because it sounds like you've taught students through a lot of waves of changes.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the biggest takeaways are becoming like teaching writing, especially if you do the methodology and the system that we teach. I don't know if any of you have taken class, but I created basically a process for writers, because when I was learning how to write, you just went to these inspirational classes where people were inspiring you and they were saying how it worked, and it was all really smart and made completely sense, but then you would go home amped up and excited, and you would be facing a blank page with nothing to do, not knowing how to apply it. And so my whole thing was give people a hands-on, applicable, give them an actionable process through lectures that correspond with tool work, so that they're developing each week based on these tool sheets what they need to be asking themselves of their story and their characters and the structure, and then give them feedback, right, every week. And because a lot of times in classes, they'll just talk about stuff on the day. No, our teachers have to read your material and think about it and pitch on it. And then you get notes from everything, concept through development. So my sense of what I've learned from just watching my own company and how the writers who come out of it are one, instructors become better writers by having to teach, because you can understand it fundamentally, but to have to teach it to somebody else and then help them do it makes you a better writer. It makes you understand it, makes it more deeply ingrained in you. So that's been really a joy to watch. And our instructors say that, because not all of our instructors are homegrown. Some of them are not. And so to hear them say like, oh my God, this has like helped my own writing, or this system is amazing, is a compliment. And then the biggest takeaway for me is, and it is very rewarding to watch other writers succeed, whether it's just having a breakthrough or breaking in, which we have many success stories, is that I can tell what I don't teach anymore. So, but I could always tell for a long time who was probably gonna make it and who had the biggest chance of making it. And it's always about the commitment to their writing and their craft and to getting better. And tirelessly working towards that and building their portfolios and being in class and joining a writers group and just really leaning into the fact that, like, you know, if you're going to be a surgeon or a professional athlete, you're going to go and show up to practice and you're going to do it all. And you're not just going to be like, well, I have fingers and I can type and I've got a computer, so that means I'm a writer. It doesn't. It just fucking doesn't. And it, you know, it's a craft and there's a way to learn and get better at it. So whatever level you're at, good can become great, great can become amazing, amazing can become brilliant, brilliant can become whatever. So it's really that, and it's being prolific and just committing to it. And they've all, I've seen it. I've seen it in so many writers where they get frustrated because nothing's happening, but then they have their circle of people that they've gone through classes with, and then they started a writers group with some of those people, and then some of them start to succeed. And it's always little. It's like, you know, second rounder in Austin, or it's like Bobo the Clown screenwriting contest. It's like, it doesn't matter what it is. It could be a prestigious one or a little one, but just getting those little teeny accolades that you can then write at the bottom of your signature on your emails that you placed in all these things is showing people, like, other people have read your stuff and vetted you as being good, good enough, whatever, to get to the next thing. And I see those little things happening. And then for some people, I see it not happening, and then they're getting really frustrated, but they keep going. They keep going in the face of, like, being sad and upset and depressed because they're happy for their friends. But come on, nothing's happening for me. So it's hard, you know, it's hard to keep being happy when you see somebody else. You're glad, but you're also like questioning your own self. So the people that keep going, and then they start to get those little things happening. I'm like, you're there. You don't know when the next thing is going to be. You don't know when you're going to get the one thing that changes everything, but you just have to keep doing it. And you have to believe that. And you have to not have the fear of, like, which a lot of people have, like, what about my bills? What about this? What about that? Or I work a job. Well, I worked a job too when I was starting out, you know, or how do you do the, it's like you make the time commitment, you treat it like a job. You, what I did was, I'm going to write 10 hours a week. And it took me a long time to get to 10 hours. Sometimes I could only do 5 or 6. And then I got to 7 and 8. Then I just kept building that up until about the time that I was doing like 30 to 40 hours. And it wasn't consistent and within that range. It was somewhere in there. You know, things really started happening. And it was a lot of stuff that just didn't matter. You know what I mean? Like, you know, but it does matter. It would be stuff like, oh, I placed in this thing, and I really never did a lot of contests and stuff, but I did those programs. But it would be like, I got an option from somebody that then was crazy. But at the time, I still got the option, you know what I mean? Or I got an assignment or whatever, but it was little pay, feature writing assignment for, you know, very low money. But it's those things where you just go, like, those are the little things that tell you you're on the right path. But it takes a while sometimes for those things to happen.
Yeah, I love what you said about comparing it to, like, you know, being a surgeon or being like an athlete. Because I would tell my friends who were writers, but like they're the kind of writers that like only write when they're like inspired or like they feel like they want to do something. And I'm like, this is like, you wouldn't just run a triathlon, you know, without training first. Like, so if somebody like wants to hire you for a feature script, like that's the triathlon. Like you need to train for that. You can't just, you know, start running and, you know, get to mile 5 and then just hope that you can keep going.
Because you're going to collapse.
Yeah,
You're not
exactly.
able to finish it.
And
But
collapse,
that's
get burned out.
a great example. Oh, sorry, Gabriel.
I was just going off of what GT was saying, that pacing yourself is one of the most undervalued skills that a lot of emerging writers have. It's something where they either have this hustle, like grind set. They're just gonna write and write and write. They're just gonna like power through and kind of neglect those things in their personal lives that'll keep them stable. Or they'll treat it like a hobby and then tell themselves, well, when it becomes when I start getting paid to do this, then I'll treat it like a profession.
Then yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, pacing yourself, the stamina, that's so key.
Yeah, I burnt myself out like when I was first starting out, like so many times, because it was just like I would just go, and then And then once I was done, like I was just like, I don't even want to look at a computer screen anymore.
You guys are making such great points because how you practice and how you show up every day is how you're going to perform. And so many writers, like you're saying, both of you, they'll be like, well, when I get the job, well, when I whatever. And no, I've seen people fail and not get their second job because they were not behaving and performing in the way that they were going to in the future. You have to be doing that now. And you have to be able to not wait for inspiration because in television there is, you do it. You have 5 days to write a script or four. Sometimes if you're really lucky, you get the full 2 weeks. And there is no like freak out and inspiration and what am I going to do? You have to deliver. And so you practice the delivery by sitting at your desk and writing every day and committing to it. And then you get better at it. You get better at story. You get better at figuring out the problems the more you cycle through something, which is why I said earlier, like people get stuck on that one script and making that one script the greatest. There's so much pressure on it that they can't even sit down to write. That's bad. And then sanity, like you do have to step back sometimes and input, because your output, creative brain, you got to be reading, listening to podcasts, watching things, looking at the paper, watching movies, and then like doing nothing that has to do with it. Whether that's a staycation at home, which I did this summer for like 10 days. And it was kind of weird because I was like, oh, I don't know. I'm not used to not sitting at my desk because I was really working very hard this year, knowing how bad the climate was. I was like, I have to grind really hard. But then, I'd take a day here, a day there, but I took 10 days and I was like, I'm just gonna like lounge outside and hang out and read my books. And it was hard. I made that commitment to just do it because you do have to like reset and rest.
I think this is a good time to start wrapping up. That's a perfect note to go out on. But I'm going to ask you, Tawnya, what I always ask as the final question uh, to our guests. What's the movie, TV show, work of literature, uh, comic book strip, meme, whatever it is that made you want to get into this business?
Oh, okay. Well, this reminds me that I did not answer one of your previous questions, which is like, what do you do in the comfort times when I said, oh, I play tennis and whatever. But the comfort movies for me that I always watch are Hand That Rocks the Cradle, What Lies Beneath, Fatal Attraction, Unfaithful. Like I can watch those over and over and over and over again. Most movies I can't, except for The Heat with Sandra Bullock and right, I can watch that one. Melissa McCarthy, but most of them are darker, like sort of things like that. I think like the the book that made me go like, ooh, story, and I want to be this good, and that's a bar that's really high, that's maybe unreachable, is Donna Tartt's The Secret History. And show the shows that made me want to write for television that made me think like, ooh, this is exciting and fun were Sex and the City, Sopranos, and 6 Feet Under. But when Big Love came on, that's when I thought I could do it. And you might wonder why, but it's because my husband writes subculture stories. He's a journalist, and he had written many journalistic articles about fundamentalist Mormons. And he had done he's English, so he did a documentary for Channel 4. And then he wrote a book called Secrets and Wives. And I was there for that whole process and would visit him. He was gone for like a year, most of a year. He was just gone back and forth, back and forth. And I spent time in that community and I knew a lot of information about that community, about that world. And that's when I was like, and then I saw that show and I was like, oh, I could have been on that show because I'm very familiar with it and I feel comfortable in that world. And that really is just about like how much research you do and whatever. But being on Sopranos or being a person who created Sopranos felt like that was really foreign to me because I didn't grow up in the same kind of, David Chase childhood, but with that exposure to that world. But
Thank
that
God.
was I don't know, maybe. Maybe I would have been more successful early on, got the heavies to push through for me.
I think that I know we're trying to wrap it up, but that actually raises a really valid point that like I wish during my doing this whole TV writing thing. I wish I would have gone out and lived more and experienced more as opposed to have just been so laser focused on this. Just what what you just reminded me of, like you knew so much because you went to the community and you experienced it and you lived, it's so hard to like be creative when you're like, what do I write about? I haven't experienced anything. So
Yeah. Well, it's also like when you're coming up, we're all struggling and poor for the most part.
exactly that too, yes.
Wealthy family. So it's hard to be like, I'm just going to backpack through Europe or I'm going to go live in Italy for a year and experience this life. It's like, I would like to do that,
Yeah.
Now I'm busy, but at the time when it would have been good, I didn't have 2 nickels. I was fishing nickels and quarters out of my sofa so I could do my laundry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know, and again, I know that we're trying to wrap up, but I really have to ask, like, why, what made you go to India for 2 years?
Well, my husband got a job there.
Oh, okay. So
So,
more researching like various communities.
what was that? Sorry.
He was researching like
Oh
communities
no,
out there in
he
India.
had a job like to launch magazines, a couple of magazines there. So he was there doing that, and I came along for the ride. And then I was like, oh my God, this is like being in a parallel universe. It was because you are on the opposite side of the planet, but it is culturally so different. But
Hmm.
it was an interesting journey. My deal with him was that I needed to be able to come back. So I kind of spent 3 months there, 3 months here, 3 months there, 3 months here for the most part, because I just it's a culture shock, but it was still a good experience. But I was also that was a very one of the things that came out of that too was and I want to say this just because my niece is going through this now, and I feel like maybe women will respond to this more than men. I don't know, but I'll say this, but like my niece is going through a breakup and she's only 24 years old, and she's like, I had everything. I had a house, I had, a job, I had the boyfriend, I had it all. And I was like, yeah, but you didn't really. And she's like, I know, because none of it was mine, right? The house was her boyfriend's and the whatever. And when I was in India, I had the same feeling. I mean, we were married, but I was like, I got to get my shit going. Otherwise, I'm going to be bouncing around the planet. And I do not want to be doing that. I want to be like sticking in one spot. So I think it's just like, yes, within reason, you want to like travel and experience life and do things, but you're also like trying to build your thing. And for anybody, male or female, like building something takes a lot of time and energy and effort and brain power that sometimes we feel like we don't even have. And so we have to reset, but it's, it's a journey. And even though I'm where I'm at today, I'm not where I want to be. And there were a lot of years of not even being here. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's constant stepping stones. And the ladder is longer than you think sometimes, or there's more rungs than you think. But I mean, I'm having a nice moment right now that I also felt like I should have been having 7 years ago or 8 years ago. You know what I mean? But it's happens when it happens. And so you just have to like sort of roll with the fact that you have your path and somebody else has theirs.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, okay, now that's actually the perfect note to wrap on.
Yeah.
Tawnya, are you on socials? Is there a place where our audience can follow you or get updates on what's going on with you? You're on everything? Okay, cool. Plug everything.
I think it's like at T Bhattacharya, which is Bhattacharya is my Twitter. I think Tawnya_Benavides_Bhattacharya is where I'm at on Instagram. But I think if you find, Tawnya Bhattacharya, you'll be able to find that easily, I think. So yeah, please come say hello. And I sometimes will answer questions too on social media, well, for writers and sometimes actors. I was going to say actors, but yeah, sometimes actors who want to write. So happy to like connect with people there for sure.
Do you have separate socials for Script Anatomy?
Yeah, Script Anatomy is I think at script_anatomy, S and A are capitalized, and then we're on all the things as well there. So yeah, find us there, especially on Instagram. We do a lot of like content as well as videos with myself or some of the other instructors that have tips sometimes. And yeah, come join the community.
I feel like you're the first guest we've had who, when we ask them for their socials, they're not just like, oh, I have an Instagram, like I think, but I don't use it anymore. Like,
yeah.
Give us stuff to plug.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have a website, scriptanatomy.com.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Yeah,
I will
so
say too, like, even if people are not interested in taking classes, like if you do sign up for our newsletter, we have a lot of like free content and information. And it's me a lot in the Tuesday newsletters. I talk a lot about can't very candidly about what's going on with me and my career and emotionally, even like where I'm at, what I'm freaking out about this or whatever. Like I'll talk about that, or I'll explain the process of something. And then there's a lot of tips on the Friday and Sunday ones. So there's a lot of free content there, I would say, for people if they're interested.
yeah. So go to Script Anatomy, learn how to create your script, and then bring that to roadmap writers, and we'll teach you how to market that script.
Exactly. I think that is a great idea because you guys give people so many opportunities to meet industry people or pitch your material and try to break in. And that's really great. I love that.
Thank you so much, Tawnya. That's been another one, to quote GT quoting DJ Khaled.
Another one.
You do it much better than me. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Signing off.
Thank you so much.